Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this one we're looking at the SteelSeries Rival 500 gaming mouse. You may remember that I looked at the 700 a little while ago, and this one implements some of the features that we've seen on that, plus some additional cool ones as well. Now I specifically asked SteelSeries if I could look at this mouse purely for one thing you may be able to see just from the box, and that's the massive amount of programmable buttons that it features. So this has got 15, which is a massive step above any mouse that I've used so far, which to some people for gaming that will open a world of possibilities, but I'm looking at this purely from a point of editing. Now I've looked at mice before that have kind of higher amount of programmable buttons, but nothing with this amount, and it's really got my creative brain flowing in terms of what I could do with macros in Premiere Pro. Now don't worry, I will cover gaming aspects and all the features that it does offer to the gamer as well in this video, but purely because I spend most of my day editing, I thought it would be nice to cover the creative option as well. I will go through the specs just in case you're curious. This is using a Pixar PMW3360 optical sensor. You've got a CPI from 100 to 16,000, an IPS of 300 with an acceleration of 50G, polling rate of 1 millisecond or 1000 Hz. It does have reinforced left and right clicks with a 30 million click rated lifespan on the switches, and it's suitable for palm, claw and fingertip grips. Now like we saw with the Rival 700 that I looked at before, this does feature tactical alerts as well, so you can have a vibration in a certain aspect of a game. Maybe you need to reload or you're low on health or something along those lines. I'll explain more on that later on in the video. But in case you're curious, the mouse mat that you're going to see in this video and in the background is the Dex Mousepad by SteelSeries. A great small form factor mousepad that's also washable. Got low friction with really precise tracking, also heat bound edging that prevents frying. It's also been torture tested and it's also water resistant as well. This mousepad's been on my desk for over a month and I've loved it. Perfect size for me, and having the ability to wash it is also great. I'll put a link for it in the description box below if you want to learn more. So getting onto the mouse itself, one of the immediate thoughts you may have is how big the mouse is. It is a lot higher and a lot wider than most mice, but being someone with actually really big hands, I feel this is a real benefit to me. People with small hands will get on with it just as well though, but being on the bigger side, it is a lot nicer to use for someone with the bigger hand. As you'd expect, it connects with USB to your PC, and that cable is 2 meters in length. Unfortunately, it's not braided, which is something I do like to see on gaming mice, especially as this hits a more kind of average to premium price point, and this cable isn't removable, unlike what we saw on the Rival 700. So there's not much on the bottom of the mouse, just the pads that obviously the mouse is going to go across on your desk or your mouse pad, and a cool little switch which I'll talk about more in a minute. Now, like the very first Rival mouse that I looked at ages ago back on the channel, this also features a removable plate that you can 3D print to do your own custom design. Pretty cool little feature if you've got the time and patience to do it. So on the right hand side we've got a single button which is obviously programmable in the software. Obviously the left and right click, a scroll wheel which is RGB controllable, again in the SteelSeries software. It has got a bit of resilience when you scroll, but it's not loud at all, and you can move it left and right to navigate, as well as the normal controls. Behind that you've got another button which you could always use the DPI selection, but yet again you've got customizability there as well. Then on the left hand side of the scroll wheel you've got 2 more customizable buttons. There is a slight pitch to the mouse as you generally see with all gaming mice now, just to make it a bit more comfortable, but this shot was also to show you just the height of the mouse. It is a lot higher than other mice that I've used before. Then we've also got the SteelSeries logo that's RGB controllable in the software at the back. So on the left hand side of the mouse is where we're going to find the additional macro buttons. There's 6 on this side and your thumb's designed to sit where the orange dot is. Now personally I find there is a little bit of readjustment required to actually get to the button you want, especially if you're reaching for the very forward button. Apart from that, it's pretty comfortable to use. And to fit the theme with every other button on the mouse, you can change what it does in the SteelSeries software. Now some of you may think that the bottom 2 buttons there, number 6 and 7, may be a little bit annoying to use, especially when you may lay your thumb there. Now SteelSeries have thought of this, which I absolutely love this feature. Remember that switch that was on the bottom of the mouse? Well, if you flip that up, then the bottom 2 buttons don't actually become active anymore, and it becomes more of a thumb rest, which I think is really great. When I did start to use this, I did find myself pressing those buttons accidentally, doing commands I didn't want, so I did flick that switch and then I've left it on ever since. Nice little touch. Obviously some people may not want to use that, but you have got the option to change it there. But all in all, that's a really great idea and an excellent job on SteelSeries' part. So let's look at the SteelSeries engine software and give you an idea of what you can actually do with the mouse. I have done this with the Rival 700 if you want a little bit more of an in-depth look at the lighting especially. That's one thing I didn't really cover that much. I just recorded this straight out of the box after I had a little bit of a play about. Now I've got all my macros and stuff set up, and as you can see, just going through, there's a lot you can do. So this is definitely a take your time and get it exactly how you want it kind of scenario. Now I've got mine all set up with hotkeys for Premiere Pro and things like that. I'll explain more about what I've done with it in the conclusion. Now I know a lot of people will want a simple back button just for the browser. I couldn't actually find an option for that. I think that's something that SteelSeries should add, but you can easily make a macro by using Alt and left. That's another alternative you've got, and then just map it to a certain button. I just thought I'd mention that as that's something I generally see quite a lot of people using. So as you can see, you've got different options to look at the left and then top down view of the mouse. And you've got 2 different RGB control zones on this as well. You can do them independently or just literally copy the same pattern onto both. For everyday usage, I just go for a multicolour breathe. By default, it goes with a colour spectrum. You do have nice lot of presets on the sides as well if you want to go for some just easier options. Or of course, you can spend some time and really customise it and get it down how you want. The trigger effects where the lighting will change when you press a key. Like you left click and then the lighting would go red, for example. Then that timing setting basically is for how long the actual effect's going to last on the mouse before it fades back out to the other colour. Colour shift is just an endless cycle of colour. Presets on there as well, or you can do it to how you fancy. And of course, you can totally disable illumination if you so wish. Now, if you've got a really elaborate macro setup you want to use, this is where you're going to set it all up in the macro editor. So you can literally paste it all out. It even reads the kind of delays that you do between the keys. If you want to, of course, you can disable that. Then you get the options to save that, and it comes up in the options for the single key. So if you can't do it with a quick editor, that's where you're going to go and make your more complex ones. On the right hand side, we've got the other basic settings such as the sensitivity of the X and Y axis, the tactile settings and the cooldowns on there as well if you want to give that a go. So maybe you've got low health, your mouse can vibrate or give you some kind of feedback. Personally, on the Rival 700, I didn't really use that. I just didn't get on with it, so I didn't really use it for this one either. But should you want to, it's there. Below that, you've got acceleration and deceleration if you want to have a little bit of a change of those. Following that is angle snapping. It just basically locks your cursor in a certain movement, just analyzes what you're doing and tries to help you straighten out and snap your lines. Useful to a very minor few people. Most people won't even use that. Then underneath you've got the polling rate, but another thing you probably won't even touch. So we've had a whip around the mouse. Let's give you some pros and cons and my overall opinion. So for the pros, there's a lot of buttons. Obviously, it's going to be great for MMO and MOBA players with just so many things you can do with the macros on that front. And the ability to disable the bottom 2 that you rest your thumb on, I think is a really great addition. That definitely would become very annoying very quickly for some people. So having the ability to switch it off is great. The RGB is good. We've seen it on multiple models now from SteelSeries, and the white always comes up nice as well, which is always a good pro. White's quite difficult for RGB to produce, but on this one they've absolutely nailed it. Very comfortable for big hands as well. I've actually asked someone else to try it that's got smaller hands than me, and they found it to be very comfortable as well, so I don't think anyone's going to have any discomfort in that regard. SteelSeries Engine 3 software works great with the mouse. We see this pretty much for every SteelSeries product now. Just nice to set all your different peripherals all in one piece of software. Then the customizable nameplate's a good thing for some people that want to 3D print their own, just as a little bit more styling, especially if you're going to be out playing LANs and things like that. It's always a good thing you can change. I've just got a few cons that I think are little things that could be changed. First of all, there's not a braided cable like you see on most mice nowadays. I would like to see a nice braided one on there. We did see it with the 700, so it would be nice to see on this one. That's a non-removable cable, but some people do like to have the option of actually taking it out. Going back to the LANs, it might be something you may find that gets a little bit more damaged if you do chuck it in a bag every now and again. But if you're going to leave it on your desk, it won't really matter too much. There isn't any memory built into this mouse either, so when you do set all your profiles to the mouse, you then can't take it out and then plug it directly into another computer and then get all your macros back. You're going to have to use the SteelSeries engine software. Not too difficult, but it just adds another step that ideally would be nice if you could just have it there stored on the mouse. And then finally, this is currently $79.99 on Amazon, which is exactly the same price as the Rival 600, which is their newly announced mouse, with more RGB zones, a weighted system, and also retains macro buttons. The price is a little bit high currently to an older model, whereas you can buy the latest model out now for the very same price. Maybe that's just a little bit of a price increase at the moment, but with today's price, I do find it's a little bit steep. But overall, this is a solid mouse. I would recommend it to anyone, especially anyone that edits and wants a lot of macro features on one mouse. This is going to be the ideal mouse for you. For me, this finds the perfect balance of just enough macro keys without going mad and having them just absolutely lathed all on one side like we do see from other mice. But I just feel that's just too many for me, and trying to find them is just too complex. Whereas this has got a nice system you can just kind of navigate your thumb around. So if you want to get a Rival 500 for yourself, I will put all the relevant links in the description box below. If you haven't already subscribed, do it! Thank you for SteelSeries for sending this out for me to review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.